So how many lights do you need to capture stunning portraits? You might be surprised to find out the answer. Stay tuned and I'm going to let you know. The reality is, you don't even need any as long as you have access to indirect natural light, or if you are able to take photos within what would be considered a golden hour. So this is going to be a probably 20-30 minute time period, just around sunrise and just before sunset. Now, that's kind of a truncated time period, but it can work if you don't have access to any type of external artificial lighting. Now, what does that mean? So, if you have to do it in broad daylight, which can be done, you'll need to find some shade or something that gives you access to indirect lighting. Or if it happens to be overcast at the time, that is a short window where that is basically like one giant softbox and it will soften the light. You won't have as many harsh shadows. So you're going to have harsh highlights that you're going to have to deal with and dark shadows. So it's a very, very high contrast environment, and sometimes it's what you want, but usually when you're talking about doing portraits, it's not. Now, I'll show you an example of using a very large softbox and just using one light. Now, you're gonna create some shadow on the other side of the face, but when you're using a very large softbox, your fall off is gonna be gradual, it's gonna be gentle, it's gonna be very forgiving on the skin. And the reality is that whenever you're able to utilize off-camera flash, you're gonna have more versatility, you're gonna have more freedom when it comes to what you can do from a creative standpoint. So in this photo, you'll notice that there's a nice gradual soft fall off. Now, I really, really love this photo of my son, and you'll notice that it's, similar, very like Rembrandt-esque lighting. And I was using a large, I want to say a 32 inch by 32 inch softbox. So it was just perfect for the setting, and I was able to do that in a small setting. I didn't have a whole lot of room for a lot of lights. And if you look at this other photo that I'm going to show you, this is a 2-light setup. Now, this is one of my clients that I had, and I was able to get some pretty awesome headshots of him that we wanted to take. Went over to his house, and I was able to bring lighting with me, and it was something I could set up pretty quickly. And I'll break that down in another episode. But what we were able to do is bring enough light in on his face and really bring out. He had some really strong facial features, strong jawline, and all that. So I once again used the same large softbox just to, I believe, camera right. And then behind him, it would have been to camera left. I used a large strip softbox, and I added a grid so that it wouldn't have as much spill on the other side of him. So that was able to separate him from the background and really give more of a third dimension. And it really, really made the picture pop. So that was something that is really easy. And in the type of environment that I was in, you could actually get by with using a couple speed lights. I didn't need a ton of power. And that's the key to some of these things, is knowing how much power you're going to need. I've got a couple videos that I'm going to show you later about how I've utilized some of the optical snoots that I have. And I'm able to shape light in a very unique way, but it takes a lot more power. You're talking 400 watt seconds of flash to be able to shape the light the way that you're going to want to be able to do it. But I digress. And this final one is a 3-light setup. Now, this was a client of mine that she's getting ready to retire after 30 years with her organization, and we went to a Legends Club or Legacy Club inside the Circa Las Vegas, top floor, like 60 floors up. And we had some stunning sweeping views. But there was a part of the lounge that had these sunken in seating with a really red velvet, like really nice background you'll see in the photo here. So what I did was, once again, I'm really loving to use a large softbox as my key light, my main light. And that was off to her left, my camera right. Now I had that set up, and once again, I used a gridded strip box, large strip box. So I'm using large light sources to make this light very, very soft, very forgiving. And the red background, I couldn't quite get to stand out. And I was trying to figure out what I was doing wrong. So what I did was I added a speed light behind her. I just set it up behind her. I had a small stand that I used just so that it was behind her and it was hidden. And then I just put a little bit of almost like it wasn't really a spot, but just lighting behind her to highlight that background. And I only needed a little bit just to make that red pop, because I had soft light to illuminate her from her left, camera right. And then I had the strip softbox to separate her from the background and fill in some of the shadow on the other side of her face. And then that, in turn with the speed light, had lit that red light, actually the red background, and it worked perfectly with her skin tone, her hair. She wore the perfect outfit, nice solid colors, and I was able to get that pretty easily with that. But it took some time. But I was also able to be very versatile and able to make changes on the fly because I had options. And that's another thing. If you have one light, you have options. If you have 2 lights, you have more options. 3, even more. And these are all not studio settings. If you're in a studio, and you have access to that, you probably have access to 6, 8, 10 light setups. And I'm just talking about something you could do on a budget. And even if you needed to and you're in a pinch, you can get great photos in natural light. It's just, you have to be more creative and you're more limited. So to an extent, more lights are going to give you more flexibility and more ability for, creative leeway to do what you will with. And there was different and challenging lighting in all of these areas, but there were shots to be had, and I was able to get them because I understood the fundamentals of what I was doing. So the basics are, you want to be able to separate your subject from the background, illuminate their face, and if you need to, you can add dynamic looks based upon whether you want more or less contrast, if you want to show more of the background. And in some of these, I used a very low aperture and I blurred out the background. But there were some others where I wanted to get an idea of the environment we were in, and I closed down that aperture to get a deeper depth of field. And having lighting that has a little more power has more versatility so that you can do that. So These are just some simple setups, and I'm just giving you some simple examples, but there's a world of possibilities. I'm going to get into a lot more of those in future videos. Like and subscribe. Thank you for tuning into the channel. Again, I'm Josh from FB Imaging and fbimaging.com. Have a great day.